What does biblical submission look like in our relationship?
Didn't we talk about this recently?
Probably, but I'll make it short for you.
Why do you always take off small articles of clothing?
Can I? This is mine.
Get back to hat.
Hey.
Open.
Thank you.
Good boy.
Thank you. Good morning, friends, or good evening, or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Waldo is currently attacking my wife, so I'm gonna have to deal with that. Wow, squeaking. So I'm gonna have to deal with that in a minute, but today we're gonna be talking about some questions and we're gonna give some answers on marriage and relationships and things like that, but I think we should go get some coffee. Is he killing you?
He's not killing me, he's just being a...
Oh, he's a murderer.
He's showing all his big boy teeth now. Look at those big boy teeth.
Oh my goodness.
Those chompers.
Dude, you're like a little shark. Look at the side eye.
What?
Are you ready to get some coffee? I'm fired up.
I really won't drink it. It
Why?
makes me anxious, and then on top of that, it makes the baby squirmy.
Because he's my son. He's saying somebody shout hallelujah for some coffee.
We're back, and it's a gloomy day. I'm not gonna lie. It like puts a damper on my mood. I don't know if anybody else is like that, but Nick got his coffee, so that's a plus for his day. Hope it's everything you dreamed of.
It will be. And more.
I think that we're just gonna go do some errand type stuff, which we probably won't show you because it's kind of boring, but we have to pay rent, we have to go to the bank, all that sort of stuff. And then we're gonna get to your questions. We might catch the baby moving, but he's moving all the time. And I feel him on this side too. I think that's his foot. Oh my gosh. Well, it looks like he's sleeping, folks. He was just awake, but not anymore. Oh, it's so hard because every time I sit straight down, he like kicks me. So we went to Instagram and you guys asked a ton of questions, and we're gonna try to keep the answers somewhat short. We have a tendency to go pretty long.
Preacher mode.
You can go first.
Okay. How to deal with disagreements. I think you both just have to communicate what you're disagreeing on and why. Look for mutual compromise so that you can find a resolution. Because usually when two people have disagreeing opinions, neither side wants to give any ground to the other one. And then that just usually ends up with people being on two sides of the fence. And optimally, you want to give a little bit to get a little bit, and you both kind of just move closer together.
Yeah, I think the bigger overall picture that we're trying to paint is understanding, like truly understanding where you're both coming from, and when you can understand one another, you can come to a mutual understanding of where you should go.
When you understand one another, that way you can understand one another. And when you understand one another, you'll be able to understand one another.
I think the disconnect in a lot of conflict conversations is there's different ways that people handle conflict. In that case, you have to figure out, okay, am I a person that needs just a little bit of space before I communicate my disagreement? Or am I ready to just like let you know right away? And you have to kind of communicate those things and move forward and figure out, okay, we have different methods of making this work, but we can still work on them together and come up with a solution. So
really it just all goes back to understanding one another so that you can understand one another. That's good.
So this girl asked how to deal with judgy comments about young marriage. Hubby and I always deal with this.
Tell them it's none of their business.
You wish you could make it that simple, but oftentimes these people you care about and you feel like you have to give like a legit answer. But what we went through whenever we first got married was, my parents would probably share this with you, so I'm okay with sharing this. They did not necessarily approve of us getting married right away, like at the time that we wanted to, because they thought that we needed to get a little bit more things in order, and in their perspective,
which we probably did,
we weren't ready. There were a lot of things that I think we needed to go through together as a married couple in our perspective and with our relationship with the Lord that our parents couldn't necessarily see into because they weren't really there with us day in, day out with our relationship. So there's a level of discernment you kind of have because there is a lot of wisdom in heeding the advice of your parents, and especially if you respect their opinion and they've given solid advice in the past. But it's not everything in the same breath, and you have to realize you're establishing your own unit as a family. And so how you deal with those comments is you kind of have to establish a boundary and say, hey, I definitely understand your perspective, but this is my relationship and my marriage, and I would actually love if you could encourage.
Yeah, and that's weird to do at first because you probably never had to do that before, ever.
Yeah.
Because they're your parents, they've always been your parents, you've always had that kind of relationship, but when you get into a relationship and then engagement and then you want to marry someone, well, all of a sudden your tie is moving from your parents to now your spouse. And it's not that, oh, now I must abandon my family and never talk to them again. But it is that, okay, I'm loyal to my spouse or
First
my
and
partner.
foremost.
Yeah. Rather than to your parents. So yeah, I think Chelsea's right, establishing that boundary.
Right.
So.
There was a few times in different relationships I had to establish that boundary with people, and it felt really weird as somebody who hates conflict.
But it's not conflict.
It's not. It's just being clear in your intentions and your relationship and prioritizing it. So I know that was necessarily kind of geared towards family, and you asked kind of overall like how to deal with those comments, but I would say the same thing like for everybody.
Yeah, and then if it's just people who don't know you very well or you don't know them very well, I would just honestly, I would probably just legitimately, like right now, here and now where I am in life, say it's none of your business. Just don't worry about it. I got it. What is marriage actually really like? Did you do anything to prepare for this next chapter? By next chapter, I assume that you mean children. Marriage is really like tons of great moments, spending your life and time with the person that you care the most about, struggle and disagreements now and then.
Yeah, but
in our marriage, but it's most of the time great, really good stuff.
Yeah, and I would say those struggles and disagreements lead to greater intimacy together, which we kind of talked about in our intimacy video that we did a few weeks ago.
But not just physically, like mentally.
Well, that's what I mean by intimacy. A lot
Yeah.
of people go directly to the physical aspect of intimacy, but across the board is like intimacy is closeness with one another. So I would say that is probably a good answer for that. And then the next chapter, preparing for being parents, we're in a birth class right now, so that's really helpful because we're understanding, okay, what is my body going to go through with birth and postpartum, and how can we work on things together beforehand, different books that I'm personally reading, and then I'll let in Nick on certain things I think that we need to read.
The birth classes have been really good for me, just knowing how to prepare for when I birth this baby.
But I think that answered the question, right?
I think so, yeah, hopefully. How do I keep a conversation going? I'm assuming that you mean with someone you're dating or engaged, hopefully not someone that you're married to if you can't keep a conversation going. Ask questions and be funny. And if you can't be funny, then just ask really good questions, because that's what I do, because I'm not the funniest guy in the world, but I think I ask pretty good questions and it keeps the conversation moving. So.
But I will say, even if you ask great questions and somebody gives very short answers and just seems so uninterested, then maybe they shouldn't be somebody that you pursue. On.
Yeah, if they are, I don't know, an electrical engineer and you're asking them questions about like what do they think of the polar shift movement of 13 feet, the North Pole and the South Pole moving, they're probably not going to care very much. So maybe try to find questions that they like or that would interest them.
What kind of example is that?
I don't know. I just read this report recently that the North Pole moved 13 feet, so.
Okay, moving on.
The Earth is falling off its axis slowly, so there's that. Okay. Someone asked, what does biblical submission look like in our relationship?
Didn't we talk about this recently?
Probably, but I'll make it short for you. Biblical submission in our relationship looks like submitting to one another. No one taking the ground of, do what I say, oh, I said it, so you better do it. Oh, I'm the leader of the household, so you submit to me. Like, that's not how it works. We submit to one another. So we both care about what each other cares about, and we both care about taking care of one another. So I
a good answer.
think that's all that really needs to be said. Hi, Waldo.
Come here, Waldo.
Hi, buddy.
Come up here.
Hi, friend.
We changed scenes because Waldo started wanting attention. He always just sits right at our feet.
Yeah, okay, so this person asked, how did we remain abstinent before marriage? I really think that we both just came into our relationship with our minds made up about sexual purity. And I would say like we definitely pushed the envelope a few times. We never crossed that boundary or anything, but we definitely had some times where we had to like reevaluate and say, okay, like
how do we actually stick to our boundaries?
Yeah, and we had to make some really hard changes. Like there were some times and weeks and months even where we would not be like over at one another's house or apartment or anything like that. We would go on public dates,
especially in engagement.
Mm-hmm.
Because engagement, it gets harder because you already are in the mindset of this is my future spouse.
And everything gets intensified. So we would just go, like I remember several times we would just go buy like a blanket from Target for like $6 and just go sit out in the park.
And it was
hard. You don't
hard.
have to worry about that stuff happening. But yeah, it was difficult. It is hard. It is really hard.
And I know that your heart in asking this question, both of these people, is because you want to honor God with your relationship and you want to feel no sense of shame or burden or anything in your relationship. And this is in the context of a Christian relationship. A lot of this is not going to make sense for people who are not believers. So if you don't fall into that, you're probably like, what the heck does this even mean? But for us, that is something that was really important. And it's not just something you do to like check off the box and eventually say, oh yeah, we waited till marriage. Oh, we're so good. No, that's not the goal at all. We really wanted to learn about one another and grow in our relationship and not have any sort of distraction physically in that part leading up until marriage, because that's really important to truly get to know somebody outside of just the physical. And Christ calls us to live pure lives, like in every aspect, not just physical. We find joy in that. And it's not just something that we feel like is an obligation. And you have so many talks nowadays about how toxic purity culture is, but that's not what we're talking about here.
I'm not talking about a culture. I'm talking about obedience to scripture.
I think that this is probably something we could go into in like a deeper series even, and we're working on a project that has nothing to do with YouTube that will probably go into this a little bit more. A bit more. That'll be a really great tool for you. So we're excited for that.
So,
okay.
Will God reveal the one to you because I'm having trouble being happy as a single? By a single, I believe that you mean being single.
Yeah.
And I'll just say this. Your question was, will God reveal the person to you? But my answer is probably not going to even revolve around that, because you said that you're having trouble being single. Let me tell you this now. If you're having trouble being happy when you're single, you're going to have trouble being happy when you're in a relationship. And it's probably just going to be intensified. I would recommend, because this is a Christian perspective, that you need to sit and seek joy in the Lord rather than in the next relationship or the next dating or the next dinner that you're gonna go on with somebody, like whatever, because that's not what's gonna make you happy.
Yeah, and it seems like you're probably looking for comfort and security in a relationship, when in reality, before we both ever got together, we really had to get to a place where we were like, if our lives were spent as singles for the rest of our lives, would we be okay? Would we be joyful? Would we be content? I was like convinced that I was going to be single for the rest of my life at one point, because every relationship felt like a dead end. And I kept breaking up with people because I was like, this isn't it. And God just kind of put Nick in my path, and we've shared our story several times in different videos, so you can go back and listen to that. But I think the point is, you have to be content outside of a relationship before you ever will be content within a relationship.
Oh, and to answer your actual question, yes, I do believe that God will reveal when someone is the right person. And honestly, it doesn't take this big supernatural opening of the heavens for God to tell you that someone's right. It'll be very, very clear when that person's the right person. It'll feel right. You'll know. So Yep.
It's a good question. There's been several questions around the thought of, do you feel like you got pregnant at the right time within yourself? And then there was one on, did y'all wait to start your family, or are you guys believing this is the perfect timing? I even got a message from another girl that said, I'm definitely afraid of getting pregnant early on in my marriage. I'm about to get married this year. It's a lot of control I'm seeing, is like wanting to be in control of our lives.
I'm afraid
in
of
that
losing
way.
control.
Yeah, I'm afraid of like something happening to me that I wasn't prepared for.
Yeah.
And I totally understand that. And I was on that train basically of thought and belief for a long while. We had a plan to wait a few more years for kids, definitely. But things don't always go to your plan. God's plan is ultimately greater than anything we could ever ask or imagine. Us fully embracing this season and realizing this was the time that we were gonna start a family, and I am so happy that we've completely embraced it, because how sad would it be to be dreading a time like this, you know?
Yeah.
And I know that there's been other women, other families in positions where it's been kind of a hard thing to accept that they're welcoming a baby into the world. But God is gonna light up your path in the way that you should go and provide, and he has in the past, and he will continue to do so. So I don't know if anybody needs to hear that, but sometimes surrender is just important.
And you know, I've got a little bit of encouragement too. I think that this is really encouraging, is that you were never in control to begin with. To just know that God is the one directing your steps, and he's the one that's piecing it all together and putting it all together, and he had the plan of your life mapped out before you were even born, I think is a really comforting thing. So
yeah, seriously. And it makes you realize how much it can seem like in your head, like you have everything planned out, but in reality,
I don't think Waldo's worried about starting a family.
he's trying to hump Nick's leg.
I think Waldo's ready. Are
No,
you married, Waldo?
Waldo.
We're not married. We are not married. You better follow the scriptures, boy.
But we hope that that can serve as some encouragement. It might be a good inspiration for a jumping pad for a new series or something. If you guys have any more questions, please leave them below. Don't forget to subscribe if you guys are new here. And we surely do appreciate all the support in a new season of life. And we hope that you guys are enjoying the videos. So, have anything else you want to say, babe?
We love you. Pray for me with this dog, because he's a lot. He's a lot, aren't you? For those of you who have been around here for quite a while, I think Chelsea and I just want to say thank you, because we're really trying to navigate and guide ourselves through kind of the next phase of what we want to do with our channel and really become a brand in and of itself. That is not an easy process. So we just want to say thanks for sticking around and through all the ups and downs of this channel. It really means the world to us.
Amen to all he said. Can't wait to see you guys in our next video. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram if you aren't keeping up to date there, because we post a lot over there. And Waldo does too. No, he doesn't. I post for him. Well, we love you guys, and we will see you in the next one.
Bye.